Rick Hornsey.
How are we doing, pal?
Good, mate. Good. So, GRAFT, the Empire, as it's becoming. But first, before we get into all that, and it's not the row, we're going to save the row till the end because it's that clickbait thing. You have to get the views up and all that. So the first thing is Ethan Yates. He was our last guest. You know him. He judges quite a bit at GRAFT events, doesn't he?
Yeah. Small guy.
Yeah, pretty small. And apparently, he admitted on the last podcast that he's never took steroids. So
no, he hasn't.
Yeah. So, and most people believed him, although he did get some shit.
Yeah,
in the comments. But they're going to, aren't they?
He's a stand-up guy.
Yeah. So his question anyway was, if you had one wish, what would it be?
Right now, a cure for cancer.
I think that's something that we'd all get on board with, mate. So, and I know that's close to your heart at the moment. So that's a very, very good answer to that question, mate. So you'll get to leave your next question for the next guest. I haven't got anyone lined up yet, but it will be in 2 weeks from this airing. So I will find someone.
Yeah.
So make sure you leave them something stinging or something provocative or something that's going to get some eyes on, mate.
Don't worry, I've got a belter.
Right. So back to GRAFT then. So I've known you probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed in conversations we've had, a lot of what you've achieved with GRAFT and with Battle for Middle Ground as it was to start, and then with what you're looking to do in the future, has come through actual GRAFT as opposed to the brand GRAFT. So is that something that you'd say you kind of had like from your early life, or is it something you've developed over time?
So I think it's a mixture of things. So I come from a house that was very hardworking. My mum and dad both worked like long hours, very hard hours. Growing up as a kid, my mum set up her own business and built up a multi-million-pound business. She did really well. Pretty much industry leader in a sort of field that she worked in. I saw my dad switch and pick up more of the pink jobs. If we're going back to that era.
Careful, mate. It's a brave new world.
Yeah, I know. So you didn't have the op or anything, but but yeah. So it was a case of watching a really strong couple do what they needed to do to be successful and provide for their family and for their kids. So yeah, I had that work ethic sort of. I wouldn't say I knew I had it in me, but I had it as an example from pretty much my whole childhood. Yeah. Then I would say at secondary school, I was a really good student. Junior school, going into secondary school, I turned into a little. Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good, because I'm screwed otherwise. Turned into a little shit. Kind of went off the rails a little bit. I wouldn't say I was like super naughty, but I struggled with the school system and with learning the way that you do.
What do you think that was based on? Like, did you not have an interest, or did they not deliver things in the way that you could like take on?
Well, I'm currently actually getting tested for ADHD, for like adult ADHD, which I think like lots of people I've spoke to reckon that I've got it. I think it comes a lot into my work ethic. I think it comes a lot into why I will have struggled at secondary school, especially with it not even being a thing when I was at secondary school. So things like that didn't get picked up on. I was dyslexic as well, so I'm dyslexic in English. So I was very strong in maths, very weak in English, very good at problem solving, which is and seeing patterns, but also seeing gaps in markets and things like that, which you can see with the way that I've attacked business as well with that type of thing. So for me, yeah, I think from a childhood, having that work ethic, left school at 15, didn't have the best GCSEs, went working as a builder, and even still at that young age, very much party boy attitude, but still worked pretty much every weekend doing backhanders, wanting to start my own building firm up. And then that led to, I won't go too much into it, but it ended up me joining the military and going into the military for certain reasons. And again, doing really well in that. I had a good 10-year career where I came top of pretty much every type of thing that I was doing in the military. Definitely not just a normal soldier, like quite a lot of specialist stuff. And then leaving that and going into, starting a gym and running a gym. In my head, it was just open up a gym, you'll make loads of money. And then it turned into a hell of a lot more than that. And I think that came down to, again, parts of ADHD with my mind literally spins 18 plates and flicks between stuff. Nothing's ever quite enough for me, which is something that part of me trying to get diagnosed for it is to try and get some therapies to stop me keeping on. I don't want to say taking on plates because I normally just buy them, so it's buying more plates to spin. But I do have an end goal that hopefully we'll come on to. But yeah, I think a lot of the work ethic comes down to upbringing, and then without just throwing ADHD out like everybody does these days, which like bugbears me. But I do think that's got a big makeup of how I am and why I work so hard.
Yeah. So like just scooting back a bit, I know you didn't want to go into vast detail on that, but joining the military. So was that like kind of a way to keep you on track then? Because it sounds like you were like, maybe like, enjoying the finer things in life that people might say that send you on spirals. So like with the military, a way to like sort of go, right, let's have some structure, let's channel this properly and let's see what we can do sort of thing.
I don't know, because I mean, I joined the military a little bit later. So I was a builder for like 7 years. So I'll have been 21, 22 by the time I went into the military, which is a lot older than most recruits going in. Even by that point, I hadn't started up my own building firm, but it was firmly like on the cards in my mindset. I was doing a lot of extra work to get the money towards buying the stuff to do that. But I think the big thing for me that really like flipped things was I got in shape. I started fighting, so I started doing kickboxing. Even being like the tiny little midget I ended up working on doors. So that kind of opened up my eyes to stuff. I then started doing, because I was working on the doors, I started doing some CP work, but it was only in the UK, which isn't really what I wanted to do. And all the advice they were giving me was join the military, get some military experience before you go and do any work abroad. Otherwise, you're probably going to come back in a body bag. So it was like, fair one. I like that sales pitch. So I joined up, and my initial plan with the military was I was going to do 4.5 years, which is your minimum, be out and then go work as a contractor abroad. Ended up doing 10 years. Just plans change. So didn't even go down the route that I wanted. I wanted to go straight into the paras because I had family in the paras. And instead, the recruitment office have this amazing knack of kind of pushing you where they want you.
Oh yeah, that's kind of the job, isn't it?
Yeah. So I ended up going in engineers. Went as a commando engineer, which is like same training as Marines. So we worked alongside with the Marines doing the engineering work for them. Went pretty much as soon as I got to the commando unit, they asked for a volunteer to go into the dive store, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. So I went in there. Because I was working in there, they put me on the dive courses. So I did all my dive courses, which again is quite an elite selection of that.
So the dive store, is that literally as it sounds? You just like missions at sea and stuff like that? And
so we don't do something because the Navy's got their own divers. So for us, it's more rivers, lakes, things like that. So we will go and do body searches. So we work with the fire service sometimes doing body recoveries when bodies have gone missing, weapon recovery. We'd even do underwater like demolitions. So like any sort of explosives underwater, we'd be going and doing.
It's pretty cool and interesting stuff there.
Yeah. Like there was a whole load, even like building stuff. So putting footings in for bridges, concrete in. So rather than having to dam an area and dry it out to build footings, we could go in and actually build them underwater.
And that, I guess, like you're building the skills as well that you acquired. It all just merged into one, like one skill set, I guess. Didn't it? Cool. So like from a fitness point of view, then. So obviously, like all those jobs, like being a builder, you have to be pretty fit to be able to do that. Like obviously being in the military. What was your journey to fitness? Because I always find it interesting if people are like, the fitness and military go hand in hand, don't they? A lot of CrossFitters are in the military, and it's like, did the military spur on your journey towards CrossFit, or was it the other way around?
So for me, it's not as straightforward as that. So I was very, very fit as a kid, played a lot of sports, and that ended up with me getting...
What were you best at when you were a kid?
Rugby. Yeah, I was I had wee man syndrome to the max, mate. Like, you put me on a rugby field, and I knew I was the smallest on there, so you just hit everyone as hard as you could.
Yeah, free reign.
Yeah, it was just like you just walked off crying, but you didn't let them see it. But so did that. But then when I think it will have been around about going to secondary school, so around 12 or 13, I got I think Osgood Schlatter syndrome. So basically your quads, because you still got a very, very soft bones and a developing body, my quads from playing too much sport had actually got too strong, and they'd pulled the cartilage out the front of my knee.
That's all right. That's a good claim to fame. That
Yeah,
quads were just too massive.
Yeah,
I had Ethan on last time. Stop talking about your quads.
I had no glutes. Just but yeah. So it's so painful, and I literally had to give up every sport, and ended up being that from like maybe 13 up to 15 or 16 or so, being that like putting weight on, being that kid that played computer games and that lot instead, because like I'd lost all my outlets for sport.
As a kid, like sport is like, especially we're a similar age, when we were growing up, you were outside every waking minute playing, weren't you?
Every night after school I was playing rugby.
To be told you can't do that, it's like, that's like a big fucking thing.
Yeah. But then that's why, and even like as a builder, I was alright, fat little shit, like, you know, it was fried breakfast every morning and stuff like that. You'd fallen into that lifestyle of it. So then that's what I mean by, it wasn't really the military that got me like fit and got me that, because it was kickboxing that did. I found an outlet that I really enjoyed, like I could do that. I'd got out of this Osgood, so like it's a growing problem. But the reason why I never got back into rugby and football was your mates were miles ahead of you. Yeah. You could never fit back in because you were like 2 or 3 years out of it. So played a little bit of it here and there and stuff like that, but you never really got back into it at the level that you were at. But then getting into kickboxing, like lost all the weight, got in really good shape. With the military, did more running, so I got in better shape for that. And then my first introduction to CrossFit was out in Afghan, where you got introduced to it by some of the American lot, and it was very much that, like, what the fuck is this? Like, why do I need to do this spinny shit? Fuck off, a pull-up's a pull-up. Like, why are you doing shoulder presses upside down, you prick? Like, it was that attitude. And it's purely because of the fact that, I mean, mate, I'd just come off selection for Special Forces to go to Afghan. So I was like fit, silly fit. So to then go and literally like do a workout where you got your ass handed to you by people that were nowhere near as fit as you, but they could do the shit. It was just frustration. It was like, this is shit. I'm out of here. It's weird. Stop it. But then came back from Afghan, and I'd fought to get down to the dive school to actually teach diving now. So I actually gave up all my leave after Afghan to do my PTI's course, and then went to the dive school as a PTI down there, and did like 2.5 years down there. But it was a very small unit in Portsmouth, so there was only like 5 people per unit, and we had 2 units. So you're looking at maybe 12, including all the officers, and they all went home to the families and stuff at weekends. So I was just very in this like mindset of, I'm either going to be very lonely here at weekends, or I need to actually go out and meet local people. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to get into CrossFit, because the Navy PTI was a good CrossFitter at the time, Carl Thorpe. Don't know if you know him, but so Thorpe at that point was about 2nd or 3rd in the UK. So he'd built like the gym to have all this CrossFit stuff. So I was like, right, fuck it, I've got this at camp anyway. But obviously, if I go to the local place, I'll meet locals. And something just really clicked with me, where like after about a week or so, and this was old school CrossFit as well. Yeah. So like you'd turn up and everyone would be waiting outside this crappy old gym to go in, waiting for the owners to turn up because they'd just finished their full-time job or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And then you go in, but it was like just so nice that after like a week, you'd have, say, like Tony or Toby or someone just being like, how's your day been, Rick, and stuff like that. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm used to go to Pure Gym with my earphones in and speaking to no one, finishing my session and going home.
You look at someone to smile there and they think you're a weirdo, don't they? Like, I find that when I go to JD even today, like I'm used to being in a CrossFit gym where you speak to everyone, and then you go there and people either think you're hitting on them or you're like trying to nick the weights or something. It's just so bizarre. But that's why I think like people like take for granted. Like, I know CrossFit gets a lot of stick in terms of, like you would say, and then before you did it, you're like, oh, what are you fucking about on that pull-up bar for? But the community that it develops and you feel a part of, you walk into any CrossFit gym in country and you're welcome, aren't you?
Yeah, and the thing is that is exactly what drew me into it. So it wasn't the fitness. I know everyone goes on about the methodology and this, that, and the other. It wasn't that at all, because I had been extremely fit. Yeah, in fact, 100%. I was fitter when I got into CrossFit than I've ever been in CrossFit. Before I got into CrossFit, just off the cusp, I just went and ran a marathon. Yeah. I was fit enough to just do that on like a week's notice, but then I still had a 250k deadlift. I could bench press 120, and this was a 75k lad. Yeah, like the weights were phenomenal with the fitness as well. Yeah, I was never been that fit as when I've got into CrossFit, but I can Olympic lift a lot more than I used to be able to do. I can now do stupid shoulder presses upside down. So it was like the level of fitness changed, but the technical ability, but the bit that really got it for me was the community.
Yeah.
And that to me is what CrossFit is about. And I do still to this day think CrossFit was the fore leader in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't see that anywhere else in fitness. The other, I guess, areas where you do see similarities are your combat sports, aren't they? Like kickboxing for one, but judo especially, jiu-jitsu, all those types of things. They seem to have a similar community feel and vibe to it, because it's all that shared suffering and working together to get better, isn't it?
Yeah, but I still don't think, like, even having done kickbox, you knew that, but the social events were nowhere near as often and things like that. I think now more functional fitness, high rock centers and everything have clicked onto this community side of it. So I don't think it's CrossFit specific anymore. I think a lot of gyms have clicked onto that and are doing it where there's that community side to it.
And not just that, but like brands as well. Like I know with the Defiant Co, like we've got our community, you know, we put an invitational on in January where all our best customers came along, and you know what I mean, they'll travel from far and wide to be a part of that day.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't exist without CrossFit like paving the way for it. So like, yeah, I get that completely, mate. So that, I guess that takes us nicely on then, since we're on the fitness span. You said, did you have a gym before you had Battle for Middle Ground then? So did you open your own place?
Yeah. So when I left the military, I had, well, to be honest, I had like nothing. I had a bit of money. I had no unit. I just had this idea that I was going to open up a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
So I actually went to Barcelona on our motorbikes with my brother and about 3 of his mates to watch the MotoGP, because I was just unemployed and sat around. So I was like, yeah, cool. So we got the ferry over, went down to there, and then on the day everyone was leaving Barcelona, I was like, fuck it, lads, I've got nothing to come back to. I'll see you later. And I just went off around Europe. And I went all around Europe, seeing like the people that I'd competed against in Europe and visiting CrossFit boxers. And it was just like a really cool CrossFit journey, really, around Europe. And came back, and it was 2 days after I got back up into Halifax, I found out that this unit that I'd first looked at about 3 years earlier had just become available. I was like, fucking hell, it's meant to be. So I was like, yeah, let's take it.
You know, like, just sorry to interrupt, but me and Tori were talking about manifestation the other day, and how is it a real thing, or is it like if you do the right things, the right opportunities present themselves? And that's just a great example of that. Like, you go on this journey almost to see how you can become the best CrossFit box owner by visiting all these boxes, doing the reps, as you could say. And then when you get back here, because you took that extra time to go and do that, the place you wanted was available. And it's like stuff like that. It's weirdly coincidental, but I feel like if you're on the right path and you're doing the right things, the right opportunities tend to present, don't they?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like, not hippie shit, but there's a lot out there, isn't there, where you see these like very, very well-made professionals that are just like, envisage it and it'll happen and all that lot.
Well, I don't believe in that shit.
Yeah, but they're making money off telling people that. But I do think there's just a big part there of like, just see shit through. Like, be determined. Don't like drop at every hurdle, because that's where most dreams go wrong. Is it's got hard, and you're like, oh fuck it, I'm out. And it's probably my worst point, is I'm the most stubborn prick you'll ever meet. So like for me, it was like, it's going to happen. The unit was not ideal, and I'm still here nearly 10 years on, and it was definitely not ideal. But it was like, right, but it's about as good as I'm going to get for the budget that I've got, and in Halifax, so it's just tough shit. And mate, this place it had grass growing in it, all the roofs were broke. Like, I've spent a fortune on this, and I lived in it for about 3 months doing it up. And I mean lived in it. Yeah. Me and Archie stayed in the what is now like the treatment room up at the front where you came through. Yeah. That was a little office with a tiny little heater in it, and me and Archie slept in there, and then just worked all through the night and then through the day.
And just in case anyone's wondering, Archie, the dog.
Yeah. Archie was a small child that worked for free. So. You
probably get a few of these around here, mate. On the way in, it were a bit ropey.
Yeah, fair one. But honestly, the dogs work harder than the kids around here. But yeah, so like that happened. I got my first dog, Archie, and like he kept me sane through all this. And then a gym was closing down, so I was like, sweet, it's got everything that I need. So I ended up buying a gym from Warrington, and then brought all the stuff over, fitted it all in. And again, people that you've met through the years helped me. Like, I can remember it was like, I think it was the day before opening, and we had like Jay from Waterbull So I'd met down at a Tribal Clash and like some other people and friends from around the area, and they were all in helping me get all the mats down and put the rig up and stuff. And this was the day before we opened. And then like opened the doors and just grew it from there. So yeah, it was just me on my own taking all the sessions, and then grew that business. But as that was growing, myself, I got one of my schoolmates kind of into CrossFit to a certain extent, and that's when we were like, look, I think we could, like, got him competing. I was like, I think we could do these comps a bit better, like not slamming any comps on the UK scene and the ones that are still going, but at that time it still felt very spit and sawdust like the CrossFit gyms were. I was like, people are paying money to come to events, and it's like, it's shit instant coffee, and the food is like a baguette from the counter and that lot. And I was like, it just feels very like, you know, where it'd naturally come out of a box to a slightly bigger venue and then not really progress from there. So we kind of just sat down over a pint and wrote out everything that we were like, thought was a bit crap at an event, and was like, right, well, let's just put an event on and put all these right. And I think we'll hopefully have a decent thing just going at that. And that's when Battle for Middle Ground started.
So where's that name come from?
So when we sat down, this was, and again, I think this comes down to my kind of this ADHD thing of seeing gaps in the market and seeing like, you know, areas where there's potential there. And I kind of said to him, I said, look, I find it massively frustrating, probably at the bottom end of RX, potentially not even getting to a final or having to go scaled, and without sounding shit on scale people now, but feeling belittled by the fact that you're lucky if there's even a pull-up in the programming. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm fit as fuck. Like, I can do 25 fucking strict unbroken pull-ups and I can repeat that umpteen times. I should not be in a scale category that was like doing, I don't know, like, you know, those rope pulls from the floor. There's nothing wrong with them, but when...
Hey mate, they're hard.
But when you're like, hold on, I can fucking flap that better than most RX fucking people. It's like...
did it for a job.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, there needs to be something in between. And I'll argue anyone till I'm blue in the face that I created an intermediate category in CrossFit. And that is where Battle for Middle Ground came from. It's where the brand name came from, and we spied the gap in the market that there wasn't an intermediate category there. It was either RX or scaled, and that was it. And obviously now we've even taken that up to elite as well to try and take that top lot out. So that ended up happening. We built Battle for Middle Ground. We were planning one event, and even in year one, we ended up having two events.
What year was that?
Oh Jesus! Now you're taxing me. I think it will have been 2017, maybe 18.
Right. So that grew pretty quick then, because the first one I ever did were just before that nonsense lockdown we had for that cold people had, and that was 2020, and you were a massive anger then.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? So like, you go from 2018 to that in sort of...
But this is the whole thing. So, you know, like we said about like, just stick to your fucking plan and just ride the bumps out. So even when I was doing the gym, the loan that I got to try and finish the gym fell through. Like, at that point, my gym was dead. I'd got the unit and I'd got the kit in, but the money to finish doing the work had disappeared. I just fucking cracked on working, and oh dear. I just cracked on working, and in the spare time in between, I just exhausted every different avenue and opportunity that I had to be able to get the money to finish it. I didn't see it as defeat. I didn't see it as, right, I need to stop working and just concentrate on that, because then the gym would have never got finished. It's like, you just add another fucking plate to spin, and you do it while you're doing the other stuff. And I managed to get the money, and I managed to get the gym done. And it's the same with the events. We initially, and this is why it's kind of funny, I suppose, now with me owning Rep It Out, but we initially had the same venue as Rep It Out, because that was over in Halifax. So we looked to use that venue, and Dan actually like rang me and pretty much had a bit of a shitty go at me, which is quite fair, because he was like, that's our venue. He was like, come on mate, you put in an event on in our venue. And we were like, totally cool, I get it, yeah, sorry, it's just because it's in our town. Like, you're from Wakefield, we're from Halifax, the venue is in Halifax, so if I'm going to draw from my own gym and from my members, it just made sense to us. But that's totally cool, like, I get it. But off the back of that, and us not having this like, oh, that's it, then it's over. We found a miles better venue over in Huddersfield.
Oh, so you didn't use the venue then?
No, we were like, right, let's just sort this out.
Because I've had a few conversations with people in the past that have freaked out when people have used their venues, and I've been like, just put on a better show.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? No one owns the venue. Like,
we kind of had that attitude, but we were also just a bit like, look, we don't need to unnecessarily ruffle feathers if we don't have to. So let's just spend a bit of time and resources and see. And we ended up getting a miles better venue, which paved the way for us because the venue was really nice. It wasn't ideal, so it had a wooden floor, so we couldn't drop weights, and then we had to spend, I think it was like about £1,200, which then as a small startup, and especially like back then, was quite a decent chunk of money. Especially like we made no profit because we had to spend it all on. We had to put floorboards down, like chipboard floorboards,
and then the
matting, just to try and make sure, because there was an event, I can't remember, I think it was Battle of London, that actually completely smashed, like it was a basketball court, and completely wrecked it. It bankrupted the company. The company had to get liquidated because of it, because they got charged the fee for redoing the floor. So I was like, we cannot do that. So we got into all that, but we got a really nice venue for it, whereas the one in Halifax was half falling apart. So we did that, we pushed on, and then we had like 3 events a year. So it'll have been like Lone Wolves, Trinity, which we got in year 2, which is the 3s, and then I think it will have been Winter Soldiers. And again, they were all kind of like Marvel themed. So and that was that, riding right up till COVID, till that happened, and then everything went weird.
And that were, like that's when we first started working with you in an official capacity. So I'd done that event just before that lockdown, and then when you did the Jailbreak tour, you wanted a clothing sponsor, and that was our first first like sort of official partnership with you. And then obviously we went on to do the main bulk of Battle for Minute, GRAFT for 2 years, including Arnold. And it's kind of cool that we're doing this, because one of the weird things that people have said to me since, what happened with you and Hornsey? Oh, what do you mean? Well, you're not doing. Well, it doesn't always mean that people are fucking falling out.
We're not having a scrap at the end of this.
Not now. No, you're a kickboxer, mate. But like I'm like, it's just always, people think that when people go in different directions, it means something happened, but it doesn't. It just, we were going in a different direction, not doing events, and then sometimes it's good to freshen up anyway, isn't it? And
I think there's 2 ways though. I think you can leave on bad terms, but then again, I think, like for instance with us, I think we've both tried to help each other. Like the whole arrangement, realistically, we don't put this in paper, but I'm going to try and help you grow, and you're going to try and help me grow. Like that's what it is. We have to obviously put figures down and numbers of units and stuff like that for the contract. But realistically, all we're looking to do is, I want to help you grow in this space, and hopefully you're going to help me grow in this space.
And I think like that Jailbreak, and then going on to the main bulk of your events, that were sort of, I remember at the time being fucking buzzing that I got that with you guys. Even like when I got the first event at just one of your like actual shows, that was like big. But then to sponsor Jailbreak, I felt that sort of gave us a lot of credibility in the space, because you were already established and everyone were coming to your comps anyway. Then for us to be on board with that, it was good for us, because we were started, finding his feet, learning where to go and what not to do. And that was really big for us. And then like to then progress that into the others was just, So anyone that's like on board now, like they're onto a good thing by working with, because it just helps elevate everyone, doesn't it?
But again, that's part of what we're meant to play in this space. Like we're supposed to be supporting. Like we've dropped CrossFit as a licensed event, and we've dropped it as an affiliation. And I'm not saying that's going to last forever, but over the last couple of years, with what I feel valued as an affiliate owner, and then also with what happened in recent events and the way that me as an event organizer, I don't really stand by that. I'd have to be accountable for what's happened. So I've got my reasons for that. But even as that as a whole, it is still that space that I'm in. And I see a big responsibility there of helping the other brands that are coming through use our platform, mutually, but use our platform to grow.
Do you not think, like, I'd push back on that a bit, because do you not think that sort of being in that space and doing those things without the name is like not giving back to that community in the same way?
What do you mean by that?
So, you know, like a lot of people are sort of maybe either dropping, affiliation is different, isn't it? Because a lot of people don't necessarily, what they do for the affiliates is limited, and everyone's, that's been well publicized. But, you know, from a sort of still doing the open, still teaching the methodology, still doing all those things, we talk about it being a community thing that helps us all rise together. Do you think that, like, by doing CrossFit without doing CrossFit, that's kind of not in line with that community sort of feel?
Yeah, you could be quite right, but there's also a big part of me I'm one of the only people in the UK, well, of a handful, let's say, that sit at the top of a company that puts on these sporting events, and head is on the line if things go wrong. Like, if things go wrong, realistically, Claire's not going to go to prison, I am. I'm the one that signs everything off at the end of the day as company director. I'm the one that, as a smaller company, takes next to nothing out of it as a wage and as dividends, because I make sure that all the boxes are ticked, my staff are paid properly, the risk assessments are done properly. Like, we make sure that everything is done to the letter to make sure that the people taking part are as safe as possible. It's a sport. At the end of the day, some injuries are going to happen, but as safe as possible. The medical staff are on hand and is adequate for what's happening. We're a professional outfit. And for me to stand by and support a company that, in my eyes, has failed on that front, there is no two ways about it. Like, you've seen how many safety staff were on. They were volunteers by the report, which I find appalling on a swimming event.
Yeah. I think with that, you are right, and there's no way on earth someone should ever die at an event. Like, there's not even a conversation. But it's one of them for me where they obviously complied. I know, and it wasn't enough. I'm not suggesting it was, but, you know, because they complied with what was deemed necessary by Fort Worth.
Who deemed?
Because Fort Worth had their specific protocols that had to be met, and CrossFit aligned with those. Obviously, it wasn't enough, so they should have done more, is the argument. But in terms of what they, you know, like, physically should have done, that report suggests that it was done. So that, I just found it a bit interesting that it was like, how, you know, they should have done more to prevent what happened, but because they were in line with, like, sort of the regulations of the state, then should someone's head have rolled for something that they complied with the letter of the law, even though something happened? Because accidents and shit happens. If you've done everything you can by that, I guess that's where it becomes a sort of opinion based, isn't it?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, the way I look at it is like, as far as CrossFit's at the moment, I mean, there's different arguments you could have with it, with Dubai and Wadapalooza and that lot, but you're supposed to be the pinnacle of this. Yeah. You're supposed to be at the forefront and setting the example. And straight after that, they sent an email out to all the licensed events saying that any swimming events had to be suspended. Until it's like, hold on, we've not had an accident at ours. So for me now to pay you to put restrictions on me, even just as a business now, because the problem with CrossFit is we get very lost in whether it's a business and whether it's a community or
a sport, or
at the end of the day, my staff don't get paid unless I look at it as a business. For me to pay someone to put restrictions on what we can do as an event with a clean safety record as a business doesn't fly. So this isn't just about an ethics thing with me and whether it's right. This has to come from a business decision, and for me, my business decisions come down to my staff. They're the stuff that I give a shit about. Like, my top priorities are making sure that my staff are looked after, the business is healthy enough to pay their wages and hopefully give them pay rises, because they all deserve them. Like, I'm not going to do that if I just go on this moral thing. And how many boxes have we seen close because the owner is just on a moral high ground of, but the methodology, and it's like, but you're running a flawed business. But the methodology, you're running a flawed business, you can't afford anything. Stop asking people to work for free. Like, just run it like a business, and then everybody is just safe and everybody is, you know, looked after. But too many people forget that it's a business first, and that's where looking after people come from. And to have restrictions put on you, and also you are forced in a way to make a decision, because something like that has happened in the press. You are going to get questions. You are going to never have a right answer, because there's going to be people on either side of the fence, but you still have to make a decision of which way your business is going. And I know for a fact that people were upset about the decision that I made, and I ended up on phone calls with quite a few of them, because I'm an adult enough person to be like, look, I will talk to you. I'm not going to be childish and be like, this is how I want it. It's like, if you disagree with me, I'm totally cool and I'll have an adult conversation with you. And I did do with quite a few people.
And I like that. See, that's what I like. That. See, what I didn't like was not that you did it, but it was the people that was. If someone said they think CrossFit's okay, and someone said they didn't, it was like I felt like the people that had decided they didn't like CrossFit were attacking the people that were standing by it, and that's what pissed me off about it all. It was like I can see it from both sides, and I think it's terrible what happened. But I'm not going to have a go at someone that's doing CrossFit or wants to keep the affiliation, wants to keep the name, because I think it's up to everyone to do what's best for them. But I feel like a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon, especially the athletes, jumped on the bandwagon before they even clearly knew what had happened. And I just, I found that a little bit sort of.
But I think a lot of this stuff is just the day and age that we live in.
Yeah.
How many people die in triathlons?
Loads.
Yeah. So this is my point. The point is like, but the first person that has a heart attack at High Rocks, the same thing's going to happen. Like, how many memes do I see now that we used to see about CrossFit that are now about High Rocks, and CrossFitters are doing it?
Yeah.
And you know, like like, I don't know, like, what's the one that I've seen at the moment? There's a bloke curling his hair, and it's like the warm up for High Rocks or something like that. And all the CrossFitters are banging it on, and you're like, don't you remember a couple of years ago when every bodybuilder put that on about CrossFit? It's like, you can take it as banter, but it's the day and age we live in.
Yeah, and that's just what pisses me off about society. It isn't specific to that. It's like if someone's doing something that you don't want to do, you're automatically against them, and it's like, can't we all just get along?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's why most of the time, mate, you've known me for long enough. Like, I used to be so opinionated. I used to savage people on like qualifying workouts.
I was going to ask you about this actually. I was thinking, have you gone soft, or have you just learned that you need to be a bit more?
A
bit more a businessman now that you grow in.
It still burns inside, but like one is like I've already said to you before. I have a responsibility now of staff.
Yeah.
I could do that when it was me and Priesty. It's two lads just seeing how the world goes. Like, you can do it, and it worked very well as a marketing thing. When not many people were doing it, you were that chalk or cheese kind of character that was doing it. And to be honest, these days there's a bit of me that's like, should we still do it? But there's also a bit of where the world's just way too more woke.
Yeah.
And whether I like it or not, people used to take stuff with a little bit of tongue in cheek and understand that it was, I suppose, before the term was phrased, clickbait, or, you know, just something to get people interacting. Whereas now, someone's always going to have some, you shouldn't say that, you can't say that, blah, blah, blah. And especially with my vocabulary, like, do you know the amount of times that Claire's told me off for no, I'm not even going to go there.
No,
She'd kill me.
But it is, you are right, it's that silent minority. Vocal minority.
Yeah.
That's what it is, isn't it? They're the ones that decide what's right and what's wrong. And sometimes, as a business, it's hard to not fall victim of that. On our last podcast, me and Tori were talking about our core values. I don't bend for anyone because I believe in what I'm saying. So I'm going to say it because I know that at its core, it comes from a good place. And I guess that's the same as you. Your core values haven't changed. Just how maybe they are outwardly sort of put out there is maybe just diluted a little.
Yeah, and it does, like, you know, as soon as you've got other people's, like, what if I was to just come out and say something right now and that was it, like, everybody stopped signing up to our events? I've just cost, like, the lads would be all right with the gym just as long as we still had members here, but I've just cost Claire and Sophie and Sian their income.
Yeah.
I can liquidate a company. Like, they can get jobs. I'll lose all the money I've put into the business because the business is still owe me a chunk of money. But they lose their jobs.
Mm.
They then have to go out and find jobs that might put them in financial positions where they don't find jobs for X amount of times, and I don't know how much savings they've got. Like, that's, whether you like it or not, that's like a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And I take that on my shoulders.
And I love that. Then that's like such a sort of cool way of being. Then, and that shows that you've got like a good attitude to staff and to the business and everything like that. That you can adapt how you are for the good of the people around you, and I guess that's part of the community thing we've been speaking about, isn't it?
Yeah. But you see, to me, that's what you got to do as a leader.
Yeah, that is a leader, isn't it? That's being a leader, not being a manager, because that's something you see online quite a lot, in it, is how to be a leader versus how to be a manager, and that's a good example of that, mate. So
yeah, because I'm shit at managing.
Keep biting your lip there. So right, we've done all the bits and bobs that people will know probably a bit about. but now we've got the row. So for those that don't know, what was it?
So we rode 3,000 miles from La Gomera in the Canaries across to Antigua in the Caribbean.
See, both of them points sound all right. That middle bit sounds a bit shit.
Massively. Massively.
So what was the driver for doing it? Because it's known as the world's toughest row, isn't it?
So I've already said that I'd just take on extra plates and spin them. So there was a bit of that. So basically, some guys had arranged to do it. One of them is a member here who he was in the year above me at school. So I knew him within my circle of friends, but I wouldn't say we're like drinking buddies. But I knew him, reasonably well. And he kind of said that he was doing it and he was looking for people to do it, blah, blah. And I got thinking about it and I spoke to Kat, my ex, who I was with at the time, and chatted things through with her. And it's never been on my bucket list. It's never been like, I really want to do that. But in the same kind of light, I was just sort of like, do you know what? This opportunity is probably never, like, it's a bit of a random opportunity. It's probably never going to come up again. It's for a great cause and you're going to raise money for charity. Why would you not do it? Like, I don't want to be one of those granddads that's got no cool stories. Like, so far in my life, I've done some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
My time in the military, the stuff that I got up to there, all sorts of stuff that I won't go too much into.
So it sounds like something grandkids won't be able to hear anyway.
Yeah, no, I'll tell them everything. But then stuff like this, and I'm not opposed to doing other stuff like this because you get one shot at life. You've got to experience it, the good and the bad. You've got to experience them. Whether you like it or not, you're growing as a person through anything. It doesn't always feel like it, but you've got to have this understanding that even the shit stuff is growing you.
Maybe more so than the good stuff.
Yeah,
it's easy to be smiley and happy and take things from the good stuff, but it's the shit stuff that you have to get through. That's what sort of builds your character, innit?
Oh, massively.
So your mate came to you and said, "I'm doing this. Do you fancy it?"
Yeah.
What's your first reaction there?
I genuinely, I was just a bit like, I'm not sure. I went and spoke to Kat, and then I was just sort of like, fuck it, let's do it. Like I've just said, I was like, I didn't have a massive driver for it, but I just thought, why would you not? It's a chance of an opportunity.
So how far in advance did you know you were doing it?
About 2 years.
Oh, right. So
yeah.
Time,
oh, loads.
But so you sent out it.
Yeah, but again, like you don't. I do not ever intentionally let people down.
Yeah, like you said, you're doing something, you're doing it.
Yeah, it's in my core sort of values. It's just ingrained in there. So there was no chance really that I was going to not do it. Right up to, like I was telling you earlier, like 5 days before we flew out to La Gomera, my dad had been rushed by ambulance to hospital where he'd stopped breathing due to the cancer stuff that he's got going on at the moment. Yeah, so even at that point, I had friends and family basically saying, like, you can't go, you need to be there for your family. And I sat down and chatted with my mum and dad, and my mum and dad were fully aligned with me of just, you don't let people down, you see it through.
Love that. And that's like, that shows that they've instilled those values in you, but also that they understand and they get it and they want you to do you regardless of the circumstance. And that, I think that's fucking what makes amazing parents, isn't it? That are able to like give that advice that is best for you in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's, I love that. I love it. Like, so you go in so you're going to do something incredibly difficult at an incredibly difficult time.
Yeah.
Like, where's your head at that point? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because that's not just a tough thing physically, it's now a tough thing mentally on top of a tough thing mentally. Like, so, what do you draw on? So I'd say leading up to the row, the last 12 months before going is probably one of the most challenging 12 months of my life. I'd had a whole shitload of crap happen. I'd left my long-term girlfriend. I got in a relationship with someone that ended up, I didn't see it at the time, but a very manipulative relationship, cheated on me and all sorts. And that actually like really affected me. I never knew anything about mentally like manipulative relationships. And I couldn't work out why it was affecting me so badly. I ended up having to go to counselling for quite a bit. And again, I think for a bloke,
not being sexist on this, but for a bloke, mental health is never really talked about, and it's never really, it's a bit of a taboo sort of subject. We're just supposed to sort ourselves out.
Especially your sort of military and builders background, it's even more like alien, I guess.
All my life has been like macho environments.
Yeah.
So but I knew something wasn't right. I actually ended up going into counselling while I was still with that person because I thought I was going through depression, not realising what was going on. Yeah. We managed to piece that together, and my whole goal with the counsellor was trying to sort my head out before I went on the road. I was like, I cannot go on what is meant to be one of the mentally, like, most tough mental challenges in the world with my head already in the bin.
Yeah, staring at another man's arse for.
that kind of
you know what I mean? That's not ideal, is it?
And then Archie died, so I had like my dog die, which was like, that's devastated me. And then the stuff with my dad with cancer. So you've got to imagine, for me, just going on that road, my mental state was like, it was just shit. But you've got a job to do, you shelf stuff, and you just sort of like, again, you don't let people down.
Yeah. And do you think, like, you know, sounds, I guess, I don't know if it's strange to say or not, but you know when you're out there and you're on the ocean and you can just be like completely fucking insignificant, there's just this vast nothingness. Do you think, like, with everything that you're going through, being in that place, I know it will have had its challenges and stuff that we come on to, but in the moments of peace, when you just, there's calm in the chaos and you just realise that you are just this little speck on this fucking beautiful, amazing planet without being too fucking hippie, does that help in that situation to sort of contextualise and put things into perspective for you?
I don't think so for me. Again, you know, like when we talked about some of the hard times being some of the best times for you, where you do the most growth. So when I was 19, myself and a girlfriend lost my first child, and that proper put my head in the bin. I've always wanted to be a dad. Like, for me, that's like number one job. Still not there yet. I've got to fucking get going on that. But I went to the doctors, and they put me on antidepressants, and I probably stayed on antidepressants for 2 or 3 weeks, and I threw them in the bin. I was just sort of like, my mental head, like, state was just sort of like, this isn't fixing it, this is fogging it and masking it. And I've still got to deal with it whenever you take me off these. So I'd rather just face up to the fucking shit of it and just not take these and deal with it, and my head somehow get over this and be okay. And that, as bad a time as it was, and I did get past it, and you know, everything was all right, but that's left me with a very resilient mindset, where even this time when things were bad, like, I've had to, through counselling and stuff, I've had to go to the GP and say what's going on and stuff. And straight away, yet again, they just offer antidepressant. It fucks me off. And don't get me wrong, some people need them, so I'm not just slamming antidepressants. But
it should be a sort of a last resort, shouldn't it?
I think therapies and counselling should come first before a medication every time. And I had to pay for my stuff, you know what I mean? Like, that's, for me, my health is foremost. So I've put my hand in my pocket and went and paid for all this counselling because, like, you needed to do it. But straight away, my attitude was like, no, I'm not taking them. Not a chance. I know that I used this on, I did some of them Instagram lives the other day. So I used it there. But one of the biggest things that, like, the row really, really hit home to me and resonated, because especially what we were going through as well, is that you have to weather the storm. Like, that's it. And I know it's like cheesy saying that with the row and everything, but it became so true and so, like, apparent while you're doing it. Because trust me, we were in there caught in storms where it was fucking grim. You were just getting battered. You were having no sleep.
How cold were it?
It were red hot.
Oh, were it?
You're going across the level with the Caribbean. Trade winds. It's absolutely sweltering hot. So, like, it's just disgusting. You're in pain. So after maybe day 3, you've got.
So when that storm comes, so what do you do? Is it just brace up and just take it until it passes, sort of thing?
No, we just fucking rode through
Did
them.
you?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Just cracked on.
Were there some that didn't? Were they, like, batten down the hatches?
Yeah, and a lot of that came down to, like, numbering the team and stuff. So, like, the twos and solos.
There were solos on.
Yeah. I wish I'd have gone solo.
Fucking hell.
Sorry, rest of the team, but I really do wish. I think it would have been.
You have to crack on next year, mate.
I never want to do it again. Unless, right, this is my caveat. If it was going to raise like $1 million for a charity, I'd put myself in the bin again. But other than that, that's the worst experience of my life. I wouldn't do. But yeah, again, like sometimes you're a bit like I think people think of like horrible times as being like a few days, weeks, or stuff like that. Try having it like 24/7, getting thrown about, hurting yourself, in pain, in discomfort, getting no sleep for like 4 or 5 days, sometimes 7 days, with no sleep, just 24/7.
From a sleeping point of view as well, like obviously you're saying there ain't much, but like are you in shifts where you just sit in your spot, but you'll just have 5 and others will crack on, or is it like how did it work from that point of view?
So you had 3 rowing positions and 2 cabins,
right?
And then this will probably break into a little bit about. So for living wise, why I found it so hard is in all the prep that we'd done in the 2 years, me and Nick were in the front cabin, Matt and Dean were in the back cabin. And I'll be honest, I think a lot about that was that Dean's too tall to go in the front cabin anyway, but also Matt and Dean both like to be in charge, and that's where all the control stuff was. When we got out to La Gomera, Matt pretty much refused to be in the back cabin and wanted to be in the front cabin. And you pretty much know why, because all the controls are in there, so it's all light all the time. And the main reason was the auto tiller. So the auto tiller is you set like a degree on it, so a bearing, and then it's got an electronic ram to try and keep the boat facing that direction. So that's going to be, that whirs around all the time, and it's fucking horrendous. It sounds like you know, like a really angry transformer. Like
Decepticon.
Yeah, Decepticon, but like, you know, like in a really bad mood, probably on drugs. Right? So it's horrific. And that's why he wanted to change. And again, me being me and just being like I couldn't be asked as 4 grown-ass men sitting in some stalemate where we have to do rock, paper, scissors or whatever it is to do this. It was just sort of like, look, I'll go in the back cabin. Never been in that back cabin. Had nothing to prep me for being in that back cabin because I'd always been in the front one. Yeah. Fuck me. Horrific. So you got no darkness because of the control panel. So at no point was that cabin dark where you could, like, you know, get a decent night's sleep. The radio was going whenever anyone was trying to get in touch or anyone was close. The like control panel where you with the map on and that lot also got a system called AIS, which alerts you if any ship is kind of close to you and potentially going to crash with you. So that's going off all the time. Then you've got the auto tiller as well, which just growls at you. It's horrific, mate. I've got it recorded on my phone, so I'll send it you as a soundbite you can pop in. But horrific. So you've got no darkness, no quietness. Like, I've done torture training when I went on selection. This is the like, nigh on ticks a lot of the boxes that you would do to somebody for torture.
You know, and you're there constantly. That's your only bit of rest.
Yeah. So you're in there then with the boat, like the race rules, you've got to have the cabin doors shut because if it capsizes and they're open, the potential for the boat to flood and actually sink. Whereas if they shut, the boat should rewrite itself. So as a safety thing, you've got to have that done, which turns them into absolute greenhouses. Yeah. And I'm talking like, I mean, I've done Afghan. This was fucking hot. Even through the day when you were rowing, you were sweltering, and then your rest was to go into somewhere hotter. But you're like, you're 2 hours off. So you can imagine through the day, you're getting no sleep. You're just coming out in such a dehydrated state where you're literally just dripping with sweat, like someone's just thrown about 4 of them over you. Yeah. That's how much sweat's come out of you. So you're going from that in a dehydrated state to coming out to trying to row hard for 2 hours to try go back in, try and get some rest. So that's where, no, you weren't managing to sleep there because somebody else had to row there. So you had to go in to hell for your 2 hours off, and there was nowhere else you could be. And that
with that cabin, even though you had all that noise and stuff, were the others still the same in terms of, I guess, temperature and light and all that, or was that nice and...
No, and this was like...
Could you not have gone on some kind of fucking side?
We should have. But the point is all your stuff's in your cabin. Yeah. And then you've got like hygiene stuff as well, because like even just 2 of you in there, like it was disgusting. It was disgusting.
Well, You just shit in there?
No. But like,
Where'd you shit?
In a bucket out in like the spare.
I wondered if you just jump in and like curl one out.
Nah, so that is a funny story. Nick did that once when we were cleaning boat. But no, so like you'd be rowing and you'd have to work it out between everyone where there's a free space. But say I'd be rowing and then Dean might be like literally in the space in front of me, shitting in a bucket. Especially when you're up front on the catch of the thing, like less than a metre from your face.
Lovely.
It's just one of them, like you become socially acceptable. So I mean, I've done tours of Afghan, like you've done shit like that before. But yeah, once you've done it once or twice, it just becomes like it's just something that has to happen. It's like if I was to pull a bucket out here, it'd be a bit weird.
Yeah.
But when it's like, look, all four of you, yeah. I mean, that will save that for OnlyFans. But
so, like, did you ever kind of get used to that lack of sleep, space? You know what I mean? Because obviously the first couple of days you'd be like, fuck me, I've got all this time. But then did you become a bit immune to it and sort of get into your stride a bit with it, or was it you're not able to do that?
Yeah, to a certain extent, but it was just grim the whole time. You just kind of got used to it, but then like the 2 hours on at night seemed to take forever. Because the thing is as well is like there's so many multipliers why it was bad. So you go on, like bear in mind Matt I knew the best, but only knew like for going for a few drinks every now and again. Nick and Dean I'd only known for these 2 years and for the times where we trained in between. So a lot of the times when you're going on shift, you're not talking. Yeah. You've run out of stuff to talk about. So you've got 2 hours of silence followed by 2 hours back in your bunk. For 10 days of this, they'd come up with the idea of, because it was rough weather, instead of, you've got 3 positions, instead of rowing in position 3 and 2, which we had been doing, rowing position 1 and 3 so that we weren't hitting oars in the rough weather. I was like, cool, it makes sense. But it meant for about 10 days, me and Dean were in a tin can that was baking hot and then got out a metre and faced our cabin door, which was a metre away from us. So again, going into torture stuff, imagine now doing 2 hours in an oven and then 2 hours facing a wall for 10 days.
Pretty grim.
While doing fizz. It's like, it's sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
It's absolutely what you do for torture. So like when you go in, you've got the noise and light torture, trying to sleep but not being able to sleep, getting thrown against the wall when a big wave hits you, and then you come out for your 2 hours off and you face a wall and do hard fizz for 10 days. With no 9 hours off to get you sleep or anything like that.
So when you said earlier, like, I'd not do that again. I'm kind of starting to understand why a little bit. So in terms of like, I guess the guys then, what's that like? Yeah, because you're in a situation. Some people you don't really know that well. You got that needle at the start about who wants what cabin and people big dicking because they want to be in charge and all that. What was it like on that front? Were there fallouts? Were there any fist throws?
There was no arguments. There was no fist thrown, anything like that. But they're like my tolerance was pushed to a completely different level. And there's multiple reasons for that. And again, this is my opinion of this, and this is from my experience, and the lads will have their own experiences and their version of me, and I'm sure they've got stuff to say about me. So I'm not slating anyone on this. Like, at the end of the day, we got across and we were all still friends and still talking, so it's a success. But like my pickups from it were things like they'd voted for me to be the captain, and I was hesitant. In fact, when they voted for me to be captain, if they'd have left it another 20 seconds before they said it was me, I was about to opt out of being captain, because I knew Matt and Dean, who are the 2 McDonald's franchisees, are always wanting to be in charge. But I also knew that they were both very bad and very panicky under pressure and under like crisis, which I'm not. Like when shit goes bad for some reason, I'm really fucking calm.
Everything slows down and you just can't.
Well, this is what, like with the events, how many times have something gone wrong at events? The girls all run to me and like this. And I'm like, right, cool, boom.
Straight in solution mode, just relax, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
And if you start from a point of, when someone gives you information like that in that moment, if your initial reaction is, right, I know I can fix this, I'm just going to figure it out. It's a much calmer place to be than, oh shit, what do we do?
Well, I think a lot of that as well was probably stuff that I picked up in the military. Like, there's a big thing for I don't know whether it's the whole military, but it was definitely like my lot with the commandos and that lot, is your condor moment. So as a section commander, you are absolutely useless to everyone and anyone if you're like just absolutely stuck in the trenches, getting the rounds down, being shot at and stuff like that. Like, you need to take yourself out of it and be able to see what's going on, to be able to send troops where they need to be to win the firefight. You can't be at the forefront as a section commander. You just can't be. So it's the same in business and with sorting problems. It's just sort of like being right in it and being very emotionally driven with it and, you know, flapping and all this lot. What's that really solving? It's a square root of nothing. You're going to solve an issue a hell of a lot faster if you just calm down and actually address what's happening and calmly come up with a solution to do it. And I have a natural ability for it, but then also I think the military is kind of like really like helped me with that as well. But yeah, so that's why I was like, okay, well, I will be captain. And then, like, they did give me one which was horrific and looked like it cost all of 30p, so that stayed at home. But I think we're about 3 or 4 days in. So actually, just before we left, the original plan was we were getting across as fast as we could, as, you know, a group of middle-aged blokes, which unfortunately I have to use that fucking term now. But and that was it. And then our coach Duncan, who I still haven't forgiven for this, because I actually the day before had a word with him and said, "Can you please stop pushing the narrative with them that we should be competitive?" Like, in my eyes, I've seen the competition. We will come in top 10, top 5 anyway. Yeah. Like, you don't.
And getting across will do, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't need to be pushing this narrative. Went straight into our last meeting with him, and he fucking rammed it down the face, and I was like, "You prick!" But they then wanted to be competitive, and I was like, "Are you sure?" Because that's a completely different thing to what you said. Like, I can do that. That's what I do as a living. I was like, but it's completely different. And they were like, "Yeah, we want to." I was like, "All right, cool." We set off. We had a decent start. We were pushing. We were in second place. And we were pushing away, and then it got to about day 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly. And I'd just come off shift, and I was like, right, I'm not having my 2 hours off and going to sleep. I was like, I'm bleaching the cabin because it fucking stinks like Bigfoot's ass. I was like, this is getting sorted. It's unhygienic. So I spent my 2 hours cleaning all the cabin and that lot for me and Dean and sorting that out. And then I got out, and I was like, right, lads, what I want to do is I want to get in the water, clean the hull, because we've got some rough weather coming, so we definitely aren't getting in the water then. And if you don't have a clean hull, it slows the boat down. Right. So it's a little bits like that don't sound like they matter that much, but it might knock 5 or 6 miles off you a day.
And when they said at the start, we want to be competitive, you're like, right, this is how we're
competitive. But 5 or 6 miles over 39 days.
Yes. Yeah, you don't want to be doing an 180 mile, do you?
Exactly. Yeah, that was quick maths. I didn't even know that. But this is what I mean. So these things matter, and you've got to choose your times to do them. So I was like, I want to do that. And then because we've been in the water, we'll be salty. So I want us all to get a good wash. Like, we'll have a bucket of water and we'll just like wash ourselves. And then I want to practice doing 3 of us rowing through the day. So it's called 3 up, because that's what the winning team was doing. So I said, I want to try and just practice it and find a formula that works for us. And we won't know that until we start playing around with it. And Matt was like, well, I'm coming off shift, so I want my 2 hours sleep. And again, I'm not slamming people, but I found this I'm used to putting myself out to make sure the mission succeeds rather than personal gains. So I found that quite childish. I was little bit like, mate, you're a fully grown man, and I get it. You're tired, but I've just sacrificed my 2 hours for the better of the boat. But again, this is it's where you've got to cut yourself off from what you'd personally do and what other people would personally do, and not slam them.
And that's like what we were saying earlier, but the other way, isn't it, about CrossFit is some people are against people that like CrossFit, some people aren't. But I guess when it's hard to do that, especially in moments like that where it's for the good of a team, it's not necessarily an opinion-based wrong or right. It's like, right, we're all in this together. We all need to pull in the same direction. Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's hard, isn't it?
Oh, that went, because then from there, me and Nick got in, cleaned the hull, which only didn't take too long. Then we got washed. And then Matt started rowing. And I was like, no, Matt, you and Dean, have you washed now and we'll start rowing. And Matt was like, no, I'm doing my 2 hours. It's 2 hours of rowing, I'm doing my 2 hours. And it's like, why am I having to have these like conversations with people. In my head, this all just makes sense. I was like, I don't get why this is like so abrasive. Then when he finished, he started complaining that he'd not had a wash and some of us had. And I was like, fuck me, I can't cope with this. I was like, right, we'll just have a wash. And I kind of just given up not hope, but I just kind of just given up on like that day with them. So
as captain as well, was it like when a captain was selected, was it like, right, if the captain says something, because I know like on a proper, not that it weren't a proper boat, but in a proper environment like that, the captain's word is final.
Well, this is why I struggled a lot with it, because I think presumptions have been made, especially on my front, that stuff like that would, like, that's how it is. So to be like, literally just say something and it just get ignored. So we didn't do 3 up that day. Matt and Nick decided to clean their cabin, so both of them not rowing now, whereas I did it while Dean was still rowing. I sacrificed my time off to do it. They just, both of them decided to clean it. So again, it's like, lads, what are you doing? And they just got ignored. And it's like, how do you manage people as a captain where there's no repercussions? Like in the military, they get charged or whatever. Even as a boss, they might get a warning or the pay docked or whatever. It's like here, it's like I have nothing. Like it was genuinely going through my head at times. Again, it didn't come to this, but it goes through your head at times. It's like, shall I just fucking lamp one of them? Because at least that just says that there's some circumstance for it. Do I throw one of them overboard? Like
what, and then just drive off?
Well, like row off, pick them back up, but just be like, what do I have to do to try and get some level of control as a captain?
Even respect as well, innit?
Well,
sometimes
this is the thing I ended up saying to him, because
it's not like you're saying it because you want it. It's not for you, it's for everyone. Yeah. So that's the frustration
the thing is after that, and then something happened the next day after that as well, which cost us another half day. Because remember, while 2 people are doing that, we're not going as fast.
Yeah.
So there's something else happened the next day that cost us like 3 to 5 hours of not really rowing.
Yeah.
That again was on those 2 actually. Yeah, again. But one of the teams, DBC, had gone past us. And then it was like, oh, I can't believe they've gone past us. And it's like, lads, you for real, like take accountability. Like they haven't gone past us because they've been working harder. They've gone past us because you've not worked. It's like, come on, we're adults. You've got to take accountability for it. You can't be blaming it on this, that, and the other, or now saying that we've got to work our asses off to pull it back. So I haven't stopped working.
Yeah.
You guys have, like, take accountability for this. But then in like the flip side of it, when we got in like really bad weather or this, that, and the other, I've never seen 3 grown-ass men look like scared children in my life. And that's all due respect to them, because these were horrific conditions that if you're not used to that, are going to be very scary. I've got the privilege of, well, I don't know if it is a privilege, but I've been in shit weather in the Atlantic before, sailing with my dad. Like, I've seen bigger waves than we ever saw out there.
Yeah.
So I'm not scared of it. And I know these boats literally just right themselves. Like, I ain't bothered if that boat went over. Whereas for them, they've never been in anything like this. But to have people that literally rodded you off on one day and on another day looked at you like you're the dad and going to save them, was like, again, really played on my morals of like where you're meant to be with people. And again, like you pulled them out of the muck every time. So one of the things that really happened, this is probably one of the scariest things, because this is where the boat's going to get knocked over, is you've usually got the wind behind you, pushing you as well. In really bad weather, what can happen is the wind kind of turns the boat side on and wants to push it.
Right.
Because it's got better surface area.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get out of that because it's got such a strong surface area on it. But now what's happening is all the waves are hitting your side on and just smashing you and smashing you. So that is suppose like quite scary. I wasn't that bothered because like you knew how to get out of it, but then also like I've been in worse weather.
So it was like kind of just ride it out. We're going to get through it. It's like,
but they'd be like panicking and be like, right, come on, we've got to do this. So what you have to do in that circumstance is the wind's coming in your side on. You basically need to turn the boat a little bit nose into wind, and then just as fast as you can turn it the other way and use that kind of
and then it
play with it.
you.
And then you're back with the wind behind you and you go. And make that sound like it's easy. It is fucking nails.
Especially when you're absolutely exhausted, that panic setting in for some of them.
But it's like I do not, I mean, quite a few of me and the lads have said this, we do not have a clue how the female teams do it. And that's all due respect. I'm not being sexist with that, but lads are going to put out more power than the females.
Claire to me, mate.
I've seen the females that were on power. But like seriously, that took every ounce of our strength to turn that round. But you'd see when it was happening a lot of the times, in fact, right up till the end, I'd say that this was happening. And this is what I'm saying about them panicking, is they'd be like, because what you do is you're going to just row with one oar to turn the boat. What you can do to increase that as well is you turn the other oar the other way, and you're basically benching that. So Yates had been mint at this. So you're pulling on one and pushing on the other, okay? And then obviously having to get the oars out of the water and everything like that. And I'm talking like max seated row, max bench press. That's the amount that's the amount of effort you're putting through. And imagine what that does with your core, with the twist and everything. And sometimes you'd be battling like that for like 20 minutes till you got the boat to turn. It was exhausting. But you'd come out, and when it had happened, so I say I was like in the bunk when it had happened in our cabin. It would predominantly happen on a changeover because you've got one person rowing then instead of two.
Yeah. And
I'm not naming people, but it predominantly happened when one person was rowing.
I can guess who that is from what you've already said.
No, I bet you can't. But again, you can't put it all down. So we spent a big chunk of time with that person trying to teach them how to row properly.
Yeah.
But every time that it happened, you'd hear them panicking and almost arguing with each other and everything. And you come out, and what was happening was it was like this, and there was no real like movement in the water, just lots of panicky strokes. And you just have to be like, lads, just
slow down,
chill, just shut up, and like actually make the when you're putting the oar in the water count. Like get it, go forward, actually get it in the water and make it a deadlift. Not just a casual thing. Like you want to be pulling that like you're pulling a car off your kid. That's how you're going to get the water to move. And there was just bits like that where you'd have to come out and really like just get them to like that condor moment and just be like, lads, this panicking isn't getting you anywhere. Like chill.
It's hard though, isn't it, when I guess if you're not that way, you know, we all know people that panic in life in general just over trivial things, and they just always do. It's just, and it's in that moment it's even harder to try and change your sort of, I don't know, how you raised or how you react, or if that's internally ingrained in you to be a bit of a flapper. You're not going to learn how to not be at middle Atlantic
No, but
Ocean,
I mean, you know, this is where it knocked me though, because two of the other lads are ex-military. So I thought they'd be more kind of online with that. Matt, I thought possibly not. But then even with that as well is like that was the bits where they'd look at you like for help and support and be the captain at then. And then at other times. So for instance, there was times where you'd be trying. So again, I kind of said to him, and I had a big sit down, and I was like, look, the fact that you've just blatantly ignored me, I was like, the only thing out here that I've got really for you to, as the captain, for you to do what I'm saying, because the only reason why I'm saying this stuff is for us to get there as fast as possible, which is what you've asked me to do as a captain. As fast and safely as possible, get there. I was like, and I'm making decisions based purely on that. And it's not, I've got to make the decisions that aren't popular as well. I was like, the only thing that I have to hold you to that is that you've got respect for me. I was like, and if you're not doing it, it just shows massive disrespect for me. So then why do I want to be a captain? Like I haven't got family coming out to see me. I'll just fucking sit back and you'd out of 3 people. I couldn't give 2 shits.
It makes no odds, does it?
It makes absolutely no odds to me. I've got no one coming out. Like, you're asking me to get you there as fast as possible, and part of that is so you can see your family and that lot. It's like, you've got to show me the respect of like listening to me. And I'm the only person in this that's got amount of time at sea before we go, but then plus also from a competitive team sport. Like some of them played rugby and stuff like that, but rugby, even though it's a team sport, you're very much honed on what you'd play on the field. Like, you know what I mean? That is what it is. So it's like, look, you're still not used to like a team attributing. Like I am in the sport that I do, and I work with the top in the UK. Like I'm not just, you know, like Sunday League football. Like I do this with the top of the UK, and I help them on stuff. Like I know a lot about this. I know a lot about the mindset stuff that we need to have towards this. Like they were setting goals every day of speed and stuff like that, and I was like, that's such a bad mindset. That's like a competitive athlete going in saying they have to be first on a workout. I guarantee they're probably going to fuck it. Because they're not trying to do their best. They're trying to beat whoever else is next to them that could potentially go out too fast. And now they've gone out too fast. And before they know it, they've ended up third because they tried to redline against Joe Bloggs that went out wrong. It's instead of staying in their own lane and doing their game
We used to
plan.
see that on Matt Fraser all the time, didn't they? Like everyone would go out fast around him, he'd keep his pace, and then he'd go like that and they'd drop off. And it's just knowing your levels, isn't it?
Yeah. So you try and say that, but then they were setting goals of speed and miles to do every day. And I do not think on a single day we hit what they'd said. So you think from a subconscious point of view, how negative that is on your mindset.
You're losing every day. Yeah.
Crazy. But they wouldn't listen to me.
Wow.
Frustrating.
So I guess to wrap up on the row, so would you, when you go into big challenges like this, you always have a sort of idea in your head of whether it's going to be easier or harder than you thought. And sometimes you weigh out either way. Was it easier than you thought, or was it harder than you thought?
Way harder. Like I've done some pretty nasty stuff in the military. Like I say, I wasn't just like join up and just be a normal soldier. I've been on a lot of arduous stuff in the military.
Yeah.
This blew it out of the park for me personally, and that's purely on a mental thing. Physically, it wasn't really any harder than walking, I don't know, like a marathon every day for 39 days.
It's
like,
just doing it. Yeah. And when you've got that mindset, you can.
It's cheeky at times, but it's just rinse and repeat. But from a mental point of view, from relationships and dynamics of working with people, and then also the living conditions and stuff like that, horrific. On par with being tortured for 39 days.
So the last question I have about it then. So you got what you self-described as the best shape you've ever been in your life for this row. How do you now, what's your motivation now? So to get in the best shape you've ever been in, and then do something incredible in terms of the toll it takes on your body and the mental fortitude it takes. How do you stay motivated now for whatever comes next?
It's actually a really good question because my life's in a bit of a flux at the moment. So I've come back from the row thinking like 1 or 2 weeks, slowly get back into training. I'm competing at March Mayhem. I'm like, I want to get back fit. I've got loads of comps lined up this year. I'm not just doing my own because I get them for free. But again, that's a big part. I love this shit. So why am I not gonna? But yeah, I've got quite a few comps coming up this year and I need to get fit for. I'm trying to do an Ironman and just change what I do a little bit as well. But I'm really struggling at the moment and there's no point in, and again, I think you've just got to have like accountability and honesty with yourself about that. Like, I've come back from the row and I am chronically fatigued. Like I didn't think it'd be like this. Like I literally struggle to get out of bed in the morning. I'm drained. I've got to, on top of that, pick up my workload as the boss.
And be the leader.
Yeah, and be the leader. And there's a massive backlog of that because I fucked off 2 months. So you try to play catch up with that while having zero energy to do it. I've got to get the house done because, like with last year with leaving Cat and everything that went on, it's put me in a massive financial position personally, where for over a year now I've not been able to afford to live in my house. I can't afford to pay myself enough for what I need to live in that house. So I'm caught on a time scale where I've borrowed money and I need to finish the property so that I can remortgage it and pay my debts back, which should then leave me with, I should be able to manage to afford it. So I've got a lot of stress and pressure about doing that, and whether I like it or not, I've got to be up till 3 a.m. to fit a bathroom floor. It's tough shit. And then I've got, the stuff that's going on with my dad. So you're playing this massive juggling act. But this is what I come down to with like the accountability of that lot is there's fuck all I can do about it.
No one's doing it for you.
Yeah, but it's like sometimes you're gonna have these phases. So there's no point in me beating myself up and saying you should be going and doing this, you should be going and doing that.
Sometimes it's as putting one foot in front of the other and just moving. That's the way, isn't it?
Yeah, and just accepting the fact that right now this is what it is.
Yeah, and then along the way, in just putting one foot in front of the other, the way appears sometimes, isn't it? And then things become easier just by doing. And life is life. Will always be life. But if you're doing the right things and you're comfortable in your own skin, you can't do much more.
No, exactly. And it's like you can't beat yourself up. It's like I've had days where you've pretty much spent most of the day in bed. Yeah. But it's like, well, you obviously needed that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's okay to have that day.
Yeah. So it's just like right, cool. And then, you know, and like I said, then the other day it's like, you know, I've spent all day in A&E, and then you come back and you sort of like, well, whether I like it or not, people are coming to do floor, so I've got to do it. Yeah. So you're up till 3 a.m. and you do that, and then you know, like you just got to crack on.
Well, not just the row, you should be proud of that, but you should be proud of how you're handling all this shit and still finding time to chat shit to me. Mate. So, like, it's amazing. And seeing how emotional you've got throughout that is just like testament to your character, and it's good that you're facing into everything. I have no doubt that you'll fucking nail it all, mate. So, lastly, your bit of fun. Can you leave me a question for our next guest?
Yeah. And this is very specific, okay? So, and the reason why. So, it would be, what piece of advice would you give your 14-year-old self? And the 14 bit comes down to, you've not done your GCSEs yet. You've still got time to potentially turn that round if you're anything like me. So I think that's the age that I've gone for, rather than 18 and everyone's already made the mistakes.
Yeah. I'd stop drinking white magic.
Yeah.
That'd be
I started going uptown when I was 14. It was like, that's the year where someone should have said to me, like, stop this.
Yeah.
Just concentrate on school a bit.
Well, I don't know who the next guest is, but I'll make sure I ask him that, mate. But it's been a privilege.
Absolutely.
Cheers, bro.
Pleasure, pal. Thank you.